this December 7th through 9th. Check out the EdUp Experience podcast live and in person in Doha, Qatar for the World Innovation Summit on Education. We will be documenting the ideas and innovations from today's most influential global education leaders. Check them out at wise-qatar.org and follow the EdUp Experience podcast for more information. Yay! LeadSquared is a cutting-edge CRM platform for enrollment management. With LeadSquared, you will deliver a seamless student experience, streamline admissions processes, lower costs, and increase retention. Schedule a demo at LeadSquared.com. Welcome back, everybody. This is the EdUp Experience podcast where we make education your business. Turn me up in the microphone here. I'm turning myself up. Not that I want to hear myself talk. I want to hear my guest co-host talk and my guest talk today. But I will say first, of course, please head to the edupexperience.com and give us a review. Tell us what you think of my guest co-host today. Was he good? Was he not so good? Of course he was good, or else I wouldn't have him back again here to guest co-host with me. But leave me out of it. Just tell me that I'm good. Don't tell me that I'm doing a poor job with my sound effects. I'm going to try to keep them on point today because we have a very special guest, of course. I've been mixing and matching things lately. I've introduced myself to like a clown horn on accident. I introduced myself to this really weak drum roll on accident because these things, they jumble up for whatever reason. Every time I unplug the soundboard and I plug it back in, all these sounds jumble up. Anyway, you don't want to hear all of that. Why would you be listening if you wanted to just listen to me talk about my sound effects? So I'm going to bring in my co-host right now. His name, here we go. Dr. Eric James. Perhaps that was a little underwhelming. Dr. Eric James Stevens, he is a startup founder, entrepreneur, academic, and a recurring guest host here on the EdUp Experience podcast. Eric, what's going on?
Not much, Joe. I'm super excited to be here today.
Even with this? Does that get you excited?
Honestly, yeah, I'm kind of fired up now.
It was better than the one I gave you last time. I can't remember. It might have been this. I was like, I said, Dr. Eric James Stevens. Yeah, so I thought the drum roll would be just a little bit better.
Yeah.
You know, even though it was kind of, anyway, how are you? And are you excited to be back, Eric?
Oh, yeah. I have had such a great experience talking with the other guests that we've had and just really maintaining those connections and kind of staying tapped into this community has been so much fun and just important to me. So I'm excited to be here again. Thank you for having me.
No pressure on our guest today, but you know, Eric, as you know, when you talk to these amazing leaders that we have, it makes your brain really explode full of information, right? There's just so much depth and richness to the information. You know, the job of a college president today is the easiest. No, it's not. It's the hardest job in the world. So many stakeholders and interests. And we're going to talk to an amazing female college president today. I say that female because there just aren't as many women as college presidents as there are men. So every time we can bring in an amazing woman leader, we appreciate it. We like to hear what's happening. And here she comes, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Dr. Lillian Schumacher. She's president of Tiffin University. Lillian, what's going on?
I'm doing really well today. Thank you for having me.
Eric wanted me to give you this. That's the one he wanted me to give you when I introduced you, but I told him that you're too important for that.
Oh, well, thank you.
He said that we weren't going to talk about that.
Lillian, how are you? Where is Tiffin University and what do you do and how do you do it?
Oh, wow. Great question. We are located in Tiffin, Ohio, which is in the northwest part of the state. The community of Tiffin is Seneca County, and we're about 17,000 in the city. We are in, the Midwest. And so we have a lot of cornfields, a lot of wheat fields, soybean, et cetera. But we are a small and very, very dynamic institution in the middle of it all.
A lot of cornfields and wheat fields. All right. So is it true if you build it, they will come? Is that true these days?
It is so true. Absolutely. And frankly, you have to kind of do both at the same time anymore.
How are things at Tiffin? All right. So pandemic, we're not going to go into coronavirus. Like, how did coronavirus affect your university? I think we know the ways in which coronavirus affected universities and colleges. Talk about what some of the consequences have been, positive or negative, as we are now, hopefully at the tail end. I say this, I've said this on so many episodes, we're at the tail end of this pandemic, and then all of a sudden, booster this, variant that. But hopefully we are. How are things at Tiffin in general? Positive consequences, negative consequences / areas of improvement, anywhere you want to go with that.
John, if I could, I'll back up just for a quick second. I think last year, when this hit everybody in higher ed in March of 2020, I think there was let's come together and figure this out. And so I think last year there was a lot more collaboration. There was a lot more all of us doing the same thing, whether you're private higher ed or public higher education, K-12 included. And we really, really relied on each other, and we were really collaborative. And now this year, I think the emotion is different. So I think the emotion might have been, I don't know, maybe fear of the unknown, kind of having to make decisions, without having a lot of information. And now I think people are tired, obviously. And so there's a different kind of emotion that's going on with folks. But at Tiffin University, honestly, knock on wood, it's been a really good start to the school year. We're almost 2/3 through the fall semester. And what we ended up doing is we had done a lot of scenario planning last year. We brought our students back last year. We did the social distancing, we did the masking, all of that, testing on a regular basis. This year, we did, because of the state and where the county is currently, we did mandate masks indoors. I got some pushback about that, to be truly transparent about it. And, from our students.
Are you saying a college president got pushback on something, Lillian? I mean, how dare you?
I know, right? Yeah, absolutely. No, never. Literally, you do something like that, and you get one email that says, "Thank you. This is such a great decision to keep us all safe." And the other email says, "Why the heck are you doing this? Why?"
It'd be the Twilight Zone if you made a decision and then nobody said anything about it. Like, if it was quiet, you'd wonder where you were, like, if you were in a dream world, right?
Absolutely right. Yep. But honestly, what's been different this year is that our students are wanting to engage in dialogue, and that's really a good thing. So they want to try to be proactive about this, COVID word, right? They want to try to figure out ways to have dialogue with me and with administration to say, here's how we're feeling about this, and here's, input. And so, trying to listen to them is really, really important, and something that we've done, I think, a lot more intentionally this year, whereas last year there was this need to just kind of take care of things and make sure everybody was safe. This year, because there are so many different kinds of decisions you can make, knowing you're not going to make everybody happy, I think making sure that we have the student voice and, hearing how passionate students are about things is really important. So I think so at Tiffin, we have been so blessed. We have a wonderful student body. They are very compliant, but they also want to voice their opinion about, what they think, and we welcome that. We have really gone back, to the most part, for having events on campus, doing things outside as much as we can, but we're not social distancing in the classroom anymore this year because of masks. So, we're accommodating, right? We're doing what we need to do, but it's really important to have a sense of normalcy, whatever that means today, for our students, so they really can have as least obstacles as possible in their learning environment and in their collegiate experience. So far, honestly, so far so good, Joe.
I want to ask you just to go dig a little bit in there, and then I'm going to pass it to Eric. But you made a statement at the beginning a year ago. Everybody was, come together. We're all in it together. We're going to help each other get through this. Enter 2021. Is that sentiment drying up a little bit as everybody is entrenching? And now, let's say fighting isn't the right word, but really competing hard for the same students in many ways.
Absolutely.
And then it's like, okay, I was really helpful and we got through most of it. Okay, but now I got to really focus on my core business, and, thanks a lot, but no thanks. And, you go figure yourself out now.
There is much more competition today. And because we are all fighting for students, I mean, with all due respect, if there's an institution that, decided to stay online this year for whatever reason, that's a huge opportunity for an institution like us who didn't, right? To try to poach those students, I mean, God forbid we bring up the vaccine situation, right? And, again, that is opportunity. Some institutions are mandating vaccines and some won't go there. And so, there are lots of things that happen. So absolutely very different than last year. That collaboration, might still be there and authentically in a lot of cases still be there. But in more cases, because we all have the challenges that higher education has, it's also an opportunity that allows us to be a little bit more competitive than we might normally be.
Yeah. And, it's funny because I don't remember how far back it was, but I wrote an article or LinkedIn post and I was saying, really, are we really going to be like, all kumbaya, or eventually everybody's going to kind of snap out of it and realize, okay, wait a second. Yep. We have businesses to run. We have to run them with a customer or a student. We have to compete for those students. And then it sort of dries up. Eric, I know you saw some of that too.
Yeah. And I think I love you, how you close that, that despite everything that is happening, there's opportunity. And I am of the, in the position that I am in life, having just left an alt-act career, and now I'm doing a startup, and just realizing that all of these things that are happening. And I could either just kind of sit back and watch it happen, or I could understand that this is an opportunity, that we can create something that is new and something that is honestly, I think, beautiful. And this, I really want to ask you about the question that we were talking about before, when we got before we were chatting in the conversation today, that you just started this new program called the Tiffin Innovation Program that is bringing students together to teach them how to do startup. As someone who is right now, I'm going through like starting the business from my garage. Tell me more about this program, because I think it's fascinating. I think it's a beautiful opportunity.
So a little bit of background here. So Tiffin University is a newer institution. We were founded in 1888, so it seems like we're old, but I'm the 6th president of the institution. So we had a very small, different kind of institution in the beginning of our history. But the one thing that's remained consistent across this institution is this entrepreneurial spirit that the institution has. So for example, this institution's never had tenure. Okay. I know a lot of, higher ed today is looking at the, whether or not they want to keep tenure, but this institution never had it. And it hasn't stopped us from recruiting and retaining amazing faculty members.
Also made you a lot more financially flexible.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. So it's been in our nature, if you will, to have more of this entrepreneurial spirit. And today we're actually in a major comprehensive campaign to build a few buildings. And one of them is a Center for Innovation and Learning. And so we are really building infrastructure to support this entrepreneurship and this creation and innovative way of thinking and developing for our students. It's a really big part of what we want our student experience to be. And so we are blessed. I'm blessed with amazing board of trustee members at the institution. And we actually have a strategic innovation committee of our board. And we wanted to think about how we could always continue. Eric, you said it, there's always a blessing when you go through a pandemic or any kind of horrific experience, right? You really can take it as an opportunity to be better and create, something that's going to make you stronger and a much more, if you will, significant institution after. And we've definitely done that. We've figured out how this disruption could make us a stronger and frankly more competitive, if you will, institution of higher learning. And so the Tiffin Innovation Program is being facilitated and co-led by myself and one of my board members. His name is Daniel Jamil. He is an amazing entrepreneur. He was recognized by Forbes for 30 under 30, top 30 under 30. I mean, he's a phenomenal individual. He's 35 years old, and he's just done so many things. And he's on our board of trustees, and he is going to help facilitate this. So this is literally a Tiffin student program where this first time around, we're going to run it as a certification program. And if you will, use the Shark Tank, whatever you want to use kind of analogy here, but our students are going to go through a 90-day certification where they're listening to entrepreneurs from around the world. And they have to come with an idea. Now, the idea doesn't have to be a big idea, it can be a big idea, a small idea, just an idea. And the qualifications for this program admittance, they have to fill out an application, but they have to be the CEO. The CEO of the idea has to be a Tiffin University student, but they can partner with others. And so if they wanted to bring in an alum or, another student that goes to some other institution or, business individuals, it has to be a group of more than one. And they get selected after they fill out an application. We'll select a certain amount to be part of this. And they'll literally go through a boot camp type of program where they're going to be step-by-step putting together a business plan and step-by-step being like crucified over what is not working well, right? And what they need to do. And eventually then after this program is completed, 90 days after, they'll be judged and they'll be a winning team. And they're going to get money from us to start up their business.
There are so many things that I love about what this program is doing. And I like from the get-go, number one is that it is encouraging collaboration outside of the university. Like in order for it to work, like in order for us to facilitate what the future of higher education is going to be, it has to be a collaborative thing. It can't just be what it has been for so long of the cliche, like, well, that's academic.
Right.
Like this is actionable, and that's beautiful.
And it's important. There isn't a GPA requirement here, right? So, for a lot of these things, there's
How
a
dare you?
GPA
GPA requirement.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So, because you think about it, I mean, not all entrepreneurs necessarily were those, high achieving academic students. And so we really want to recognize that creativity and that innovation that we know our students have. We have students that are, selling their own clothing line out of their residence hall room. This is really an opportunity for students to just try something, right? And learn so much about individuals that have been successful. And it's just one example of something that, super exciting that we're doing at the institution. So our information session is actually this evening. And so we're looking forward to our board member presenting kind of the criteria of this, and I'll be speaking along with them this evening. So we're excited about that.
There's a lot there, right? You can do a lot in college if you have the resources and the desire. It's funny because I have a cousin. When she was in college, she went out here on the West Coast. She started making bracelets, like these rubber bracelets, and they would have words on them like peace and love and, whatever. And she would make them in China for like I don't know how the heck she did it, $1, and she'd sell them for 10 at rock concerts. Fast forward, she has like this clothing line that's now licensed throughout Bloomingdale's and Express, and all through doing something simple in college because there was an incubation lab where it was facilitating the ingenuity and the entrepreneurship that students have that you just don't have access to when you're in a structured academic environment where you sit in class and you get graded and you go to the next class. There has to be something else that facilitates that imagination. Lillian, don't you think?
Absolutely. No doubt. And, a lot of times I think, individuals can be afraid, right? They can be afraid or they don't know how to go about it, right? They have an idea, but they don't necessarily know how to go about it. And so that's why we're so excited about this. And we have about half of our students that study with us online or at a distance, either undergrad or graduate students, and we're offering it to them as well. So it's going to be this hybrid where we do have to have the student on campus part of the time. During the courses will be every week, or sessions will be every week, and we'll hear from an entrepreneur every week or every other week. And then the students have to be here and they have to commit to it. So it doesn't matter what else they're involved in; they have to actually attend the entire 90-day series. But what's neat about it is our online students that may be in Arkansas or Texas or in Romania can actually participate in this as well.
Eric.
And I love this because as someone who I'm researching right now what does it take for me to get funding to go with the business and just just realizing that like one of the requirements that an investment firm has for an investor is like, you are going to be doing this without us. And so like that student that you described, who's selling a clothing line out of their residence hall, I'm thinking like that. I mean, that was me. I was in fourth grade selling cinnamon toothpicks, right? I was the kid that was like slinging the Pokemon cards like underground, right? And it was like, and to think like, I didn't need to go get a PhD to do what I'm doing right now. I don't think I could be doing what I'm doing right now without my PhD. But if things had been different, if I had been empowered in a situation, like when I am like in there being creative, I just think of like, what a wonderful opportunity for your students to have.
Yep. That's exactly what we're all about. And we want to create those opportunities each and every day if we can. So, our student population is just amazing. So we have about 44% of our students come from some diverse background. So when we define diversity, we mean domestic or global diversity. We include, orientation, we include, students with disabilities. And so we're an extremely diverse campus. And we have, a lot of first generation college students, just over 40% of our students are first generation college students. And so giving them opportunities to really, really transform their lives and have these opportunities that they don't even necessarily feel they could potentially achieve their potential, let alone surpass it, that's why we do what we do every day. I mean, that's what makes a job fun. As Joe indicated early, it's not easy for presidents, but this kind of opportunity to see your students shine, see them struggle through something and then shine and be successful at the end of it is just a really, really wonderful opportunity for me as a president. So.
LeadSquared isn't only an enrollment CRM. It's a technology that will allow you to optimize your entire front-end student lifecycle by providing decision makers with real-time customizable dashboards. Forecasting, measuring, and optimizing for key activities will increase retention and revenue, and LeadSquared will lower technology costs simultaneously. Not only can LeadSquared align with existing admissions processes, but the technology will also help you innovate beyond what you thought was possible. The ability to access data on your phone will keep you connected, and when you add in the world-class customer service, LeadSquared transcends being a technology. It's an experience. Check them out at LeadSquared.com. Eric, you love this so much, you're all choked up. You had to go and cough a little bit because you're so... I saw you go off camera.
I'm not crying. I'm not crying. You are.
I do want to say and just note that you said something about Pokemon cards, which
oh my god,
I find it hard to believe you admit that on podcast, but that's okay, Eric. That's why I love having you here.
I was meeting market demands, Joe.
Stop. Just right now. Just stop. I want to say, Lillian, that I already love you because I just like the talk, the way you talk, just sort of the no nonsense, say it like it is. So it's very political higher education, as you know. There's a lot of red tape and bureaucracies. It makes it very hard to move, very hard to change. Coronavirus helps do that, blah, 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 blah. What do you wish you knew back then, say 2 years ago, that you know now that might have made things easier or better? Or is there nothing because it was just an unprepared situation?
There always is something, right? I think I tend to be pretty results oriented and I tend to want to move very, very quickly. And one of the things that I learned in the last 2 years is obviously when you're in a pandemic, you don't necessarily want to be the first to do something, right? So this was a great opportunity to not, be a pioneer in something, in terms of decision making for taking care of everybody. So, it was important because sometimes when you make a decision, I had 62 decisions about COVID-19 to make in one day, right? And so realizing that, it was okay to, not make a decision when everybody else was making a decision. So if I needed to pause a little bit longer to really just examine things a little bit more, that was okay. To make a decision that maybe wasn't perfect, because at the end of the day, and I don't mean perfect in terms of, making people happy, because you throw that one out the window, that doesn't happen no matter what. But in terms of making sure that in hindsight, you don't say, oh, darn it, I wish we would have done this, right? Like in terms of maybe a particular communication piece of the decision. So knowing that sometimes making the decision was more important than having all the pieces completely aligned, especially when you're in a pandemic. And so, and sometimes knowing that, just getting it done might be good enough, right? So some of those kind of ways that you looked at, or that I looked at decision-making, I really took some time to do some self-reflection around how to make decisions in, it's not a crisis necessarily, but a pandemic that really, really caused a lot of issues for people. People deal with things like a pandemic very differently, right? There are so many emotions around that, and different points in time that trigger, fatigue, the mental health issues. I mean, there are a lot of things that happen over this time. And so, just really, really, being okay to just sit and pause for a minute, maybe sleep on it for a second. Those types of things. I think you learn as a leader anyways, but I think it's even more intentional when you're going through something that you have so many things being thrown at you in terms of making a decision. And, this person over here wants you to make it this way. And this person, I'm talking my leadership, wants to make the decision this way. And just really kind of taking it all in and just pausing to say, okay, what's going to be the best opportunity here? And know that you might screw it up every once in a while. And that's just the reality of it.
Well, you mentioned self-reflection, excuse me, and I'm going to ask you to do a little bit of that right now with my keep a guest on their toes question that I like to ask in the middle of every episode. In fact, I've done it at the beginning, done it at the end, but I find in the middle is the best place. I'm going to ask you 2 questions, Lillian. You get to pick which one you want to answer, and then Eric's got to answer the other one. That's the way we're going to do this. Are you ready?
All right.
Here we go. For no money. I just like to hit that button. That kind of makes me feel...
That's a good button.
Yeah, I like that one. Anyway, here we go, Lillian. You're walking into a room at Tiffin University, and there's a song playing. It's your entrance music. It's the song you always want playing as you enter the room. What is that song, Lillian? Or tell us about the dream vacation that you can't take as a college president.
All right, wait, say that second one again.
What's the dream vacation? The one that you wish you could take post-coronavirus. Where would you go? What would you do?
I think I want to answer the first one.
Yes. That's the one I really want you to answer.
Awesome.
All right. What song, huh?
What's your entrance song?
Defying Gravity from the musical Wicked.
I have no idea what that is. Eric, do you know what that is?
How can you not know what that is, Joe?
Defying Gravity from who?
From Wicked.
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
From Wicked. Okay. Yes, I do know. Okay, that's good. I like that.
Wow.
Well, that's a good one. Eric, that leaves you, my friend, with the dream vacation.
I would find someone who could watch my children, so I wouldn't have to go with my children on a vacation, and I'd go on a cruise.
Access granted.
Right, and then I think a Mediterranean cruise.
Access granted.
Yes, I agree. That would be phenomenal. Well done. See, we learn a little bit about everybody. We are human. We are educators, but we are human beings. And the job that we do is very hard. And Lillian, I think I want to ask this question, and then I'm going to pass it to Eric. I just want to ask how tired your staff is, how tired, and it is not literal, right? But mental, we know how important mental health has been. I hope that we're turning the corner. Are we stuck? Is your leadership team, and stuck as like, there's the right now decision making of the pandemic. There's the future decision making of what does my fall term look like? What's my spring term going to look like? What's our online efforts looking like? What are we going to do with this enrollment cliff coming up? Is there enough future think happening right now, or are we still in the moment of CV?
So there is a lot of future think going on at Tiffin University among the leadership here, my cabinet, if you will. We are definitely tired, but we're not stuck. And I think, the one thing that I always want to make sure that my team does is takes time to re-energize and to unplug. We can cover each other. We can make sure that each of us has the opportunity to just unplug for a little bit of time and rest. So we are by no means stuck at all. We're running a marathon and we know that, but we're really trying to literally stop along the way and make sure that we take care of the current, but more importantly, we really focus on the future. And that's what, when we were talking before about what something like a pandemic allows for, it does allow for the opportunity to really think about the future. All of us in higher ed, no matter what kind of institution you are, the challenges of enrollment hit us all. And it was significant before the pandemic. It's even more significant now and into the future, right? And so, using this time to make sure that we're focused on pivoting, that we're focused on making sure that we're doing things very differently to meet the needs of our students, current and future, is critical. And so by no means are we stuck, Joe. We really aren't. But we're tired and we're trying to take some rest breaks along the way in this marathon that we're all running.
Now that's vision, and I like to call that the mic drop moment of this episode. Over to you, Eric.
I think that was a great question and response. And I think that your response echoes a lot of what I've been hearing, and just like the different beats and pulses that I've listening to, that there's so much emphasis and like making sure that we're serving the needs of our students. And I guess like as someone who is a college president, like there's this other theme that is happening about faculty and staff burnout that Joe was kind of like alluding to before. And we have like these articles about like the Great Resignation. And so like the question then becomes, at what point and how much is the focus also on making sure that our faculty are making sure they're taking breaks, like making sure they're pausing, like encouraging those healthy habits. And so like I love and I appreciate that student focus. Like, what are some of the things that you're trying to do, like for your faculty and your staff?
Mm-hmm. So we learned a lot about that, obviously last year when we were all online and, getting together virtually. And so we've really, and I would say that our faculty and staff are tired. They are, but they're still pushing through also. And so, little things like food trucks. Okay. Like just having food trucks on campus so people can take a break from work and like go get some food on the institution.
Awesome.
Yeah. Giving people a day off without having to take their annual leave. Right. We've done the last couple of years, actually, we've extended the time over the holidays so that people can take a little bit more time to unplug then. And just, we have people in place where we cover each other, right? And then another person gets to leave and make up those days if they're there during that holiday time. So just making sure that you recognize that students obviously, let me start with faculty and staff first, that faculty need to unplug and they need breaks, and they too handle the pandemic, if they have their own compromising situation or if they have a family member. We've been very accommodating and supportive for whatever their needs may be. Mm-hmm. And accommodating in terms of classroom setups and using technology to the advantage of the pedagogical approach, the teaching approach that they're using. So all of those things. So whether we're taking care of them by little celebrations or time off, or just the opportunity to really, really recognize and be grateful for our employees, we do that. We're trying to do the same thing for our students. Our students, as we've mentioned a little bit here, and we're not alone here. I mean, our students are having mental health issues. Think about this. Think about the first year class this year and the sophomores this year, right? I mean, it's just been so different for them. And even for the traditional students that were coming out of high school, and this is a very resilient student, if you will, cohort. However, they're not without their challenges as far as mental health. So just really making sure we have additional support for counseling and in locations that are convenient for students and in modalities that are convenient for students. So we have a staff at the institution. We actually partner with institutions that have graduate programs in counseling, and we get interns that way, which helps. And then we also have a lot of things that we're doing virtually as far as counseling and support. And that's to take care of the individual student and their challenges there, but just keeping them as engaged as possible and doing fun things. I mean, doing fun things is just so important.
I love that the recurring theme that I feel that has come through in each of the answers and the things that we've been discussing is this idea of time and time management, like understanding, like it's like, okay, you have a decision you need to make, pause, take some time to think, like sleep on the decision. That's okay to do. How do we promote the mental health of our faculty and our staff? We encourage them to take time, take breaks. And I just wonder, there's just this feeling of in academia of like, you have to put in your work all the time. You're never not working. And maybe just helping staff just understand like just time management. It's like, like you can, we want you to stop working after 8 hours today. Please stop working. So I really enjoy this theme that has emerged of just the importance of taking time.
I do this quirky thing every once in a while. I actually do it pretty often, where I literally, before I start talking to a group of faculty or staff, and sometimes even students, I'll start with, okay, everybody take a deep breath. And I'll pause like that. And then, okay, let's go. Let's do it. Inhale and exhale, right? Just to really just take a second.
Too good, Joe.
I know he is. But I think just trying to do little things, little, silly things like that, right? That really can just help everybody just take a moment to breathe, right? Take a moment and just, just really, really, truly breathe, because it really can just help focus you and realize that, sometimes we get in our own way and we think that everything's a crisis and we have to make a decision. Some of the best ways to deal with stress and all the other things that we're dealing with is slow down, take a breath. And, what's the big deal if you sleep on that darn email overnight, right? Who cares? Really? Yeah.
That feeling of having to respond, I can't say earlier in my career, I get an email and just feel this overwhelming response to respond. Now, nah, well, let's sit on that sucker for a couple of days. Let's see let's see who could solve their problems without me responding.
Right. That's right.
I want to ask you real fast, Lillian, a year ago, about 13, 14 months ago, you went through some layoffs as a result of the pandemic. You had to restructure, and this is not great news, Lillian, because so many universities had to do this. But in the middle of a pandemic, having to restructure, it's a really hard decision to make, right? Because you want to take care of everyone, because you know that there's going to be huge impact, but at the same time, take care of the people that you do have in the university and the students and be able to operate into the future. That must have been a really hard decision for you. Where are things a year later as you've come out of that restructuring? Are you sort of leaner and meaner, so to speak? Because tuition-dependent institutions, which are the majority of institutions in the United States, unless you happen to have $1 billion endowment, which very few do, are having to make very tough decisions. Your fixed costs of your staff, and you have to evaluate your fixed costs if you want to remain financially flexible. So how did that decision come out, and where do you guys stand, and do you feel good about those decisions, even though they were really hard?
Yeah, they were really hard. And, there are a few things that are harder than that, right? Because it was a horrible process to have to go through. You're dealing with people's lives, and you're dealing with, their livelihood, right? And people that have really, in some cases, made their entire career happen at this institution. And so absolutely, it's one of the worst decisions I ever had to make. In hindsight, though, it has really, really helped us. We are leaner and meaner. We have been able to recognize individuals that have really kind of stepped up, and individuals that were these emerging leaders with great talents and opportunity to really, step into a new position. And so it's allowed us to really, find some talent that maybe otherwise we wouldn't have had the opportunity to do, and they might have left us. So it has been, in hindsight, one of the things we absolutely needed to do. And frankly, in hindsight, I'm glad we did it, because our organization is much stronger as a result. I wish we wouldn't have had to do that, but given all of the factors that had to go into that decision, we are definitely leaner and meaner. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah,
I gotta say, I wish that our listeners could be observing the conversation right now. Because Joe, as you were asking the question, Lillian, I was just watching your body language, and what I have loved about being a part of these discussions with these, frankly, just amazing people and leaders, is understanding just how emotionally connected people really are. Like I was always like, it's so easy to blame administration for things because it's, the administration, like that's who you blame. But I wish that people could see that sorrow. And then as you kept talking and going back to what we're talking about before, that like in that sorrow, there is opportunity, and you talking about these amazing leaders that you have found that you would not have found otherwise. And just like watching your face brighten up with that. I think that it shows a lot of character, and that we're dealing with some really hard things, but there are also beautiful things that can emerge from it.
There's no doubt. Thank you for sharing that. That is, it truly was one of the toughest decisions, ever. And I as a leader, you do have to make really, really tough decisions, and it stinks. It really does. But again, there's always that silver lining on the other side of it, right?
Responsibility is a sucky thing sometimes to have. Right. And I know I can't speak for you, Lillian, but when I've had to do this, and it's not this is not like a PC thing for me to say, but I do go, okay, they have kids. I know I shouldn't do that. Right? Because the person who might be getting laid off that doesn't have kids isn't any less or more important than the person who's getting laid. But it's like, what other lives am I affecting as a part of this? Anyway, we're going to move on from these really hard moments. We're going to move on to our final two questions of the episode, unless you have any others, Eric.
No, I'm looking forward to these two questions, Joe.
Here we go. What did Eric not ask you about Tiffin University that he should have asked you? Anything that I get to do this because I'm the host and my guest co-host takes it, but
that was my fault, Joe. My bad.
Yeah, I know. What did we really forget to ask you? Anything that you wanted to say or planned to say that you didn't get a chance to say? Anything you want to plug, events you have going on, your website that we didn't actually give out yet, anything at all? And then secondly, what does the future of higher education look like? Lillian.
Oh boy, wow. Okay, we don't have much time left. All right. So the first thing that I would say is I was hoping, and I wanted this opportunity to plug something that we're doing that I'm super excited about, in addition to the Tiffin Innovation Program, and that is we are setting up our Tiffin University Center for Intercultural Excellence. We're going to launch that. It's going to be effective January 1st, and without going in a lot of detail, I mentioned earlier how diverse our campus is, how diverse our student body is. And I mentioned earlier, we're in Seneca County, pretty homogeneous environment, but we attract students from Seneca County and Saudi Arabia and everything in between. And so we're this real kind of global footprint in the middle of Seneca County. We actually have a campus in Bucharest, Romania. We have several partnerships with international institutions. And so our footprint is really, really wide. And one of the things that was important to me is understanding, seeing this diversity in our student body. I wanted to figure out a way that we could really just optimize that experience, because we have this laboratory of learning. So over the last several years, we have really instituted global diversity competencies in our academic curriculum. So we redid our Gen Ed core, the humanities and the English classes and all that are very intentional around developing competencies in our students around global diversity. So things like tolerance for ambiguity, the ability to negotiate, understanding differences in communication, critical thinking, how that plays in. So these pieces of global diversity that really impact how students are able to work effectively with people that are different than them. So that's embedded in our curriculum. We're also training all of our faculty and staff. In fact, we're just about through that continuous education as part of their performance evaluation.
Amazing.
That's all, like, that is so cool.
Yeah. And we're actually even now taking it outside and telling our story. And so we're writing a book on this. We're writing a whole bunch of journal articles, and we're actually helping other institutions and other organizations understand that diversity, equity, inclusion shouldn't be about division. It should be about everybody having a seat at the table to talk about what really inclusion should mean, and this whole idea about culture, and talking about the culture of an organization, the culture of individuals, and the fact that inclusion is what it's all about. If we're going to truly get to valuing each other, we have to allow everybody to have a voice in terms of really trying to seek first to understand it. So we've been training and educating and consulting with other organizations to do this, so much so that we are starting our own center and are going to continue this work by centralizing our story as well as what we offer to the greater world out there around our response to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I'm super excited about that and wanted to share that with you.
Wow.
Very impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
that I again, just that emphasis on collaboration and just like value of the community is so important.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, tell us like the future of education. What does it look like?
So the future is tough. Okay. It's tough.
That's probably one of the best answers we've gotten so far.
Oh, yeah, it is. There is no doubt that we will see higher education's institutions close. That we'll see mergers. We'll see, joint ventures. All of that. But there, even though it's going to be tough, and even though our customer is really changing, there are lots of opportunities. But if we're really going to be able to distinguish and thrive with those challenges, we have to think differently, and we have to really pivot in the way that we do everything that we do. So I think what you're going to see in the future is we are definitely going to see more distinction, more of an opportunity for each institution to have some sort of distinction and differentiation, and much more of a focus on collaboration, on strategic partnerships, and frankly, and looking to really combine efforts. But strategic partnerships have to be part of the future. They already are. And in my mind, you fast forward even 5 years from now, the landscape of higher education is going to look very different in terms of the number of colleges and universities we have today, and who is working with who to offer what to our students, right? And in what kind of modality. So we have to think very differently about higher ed. I think it's a great opportunity to really define the future. And I actually think as leaders of higher ed, we have an opportunity to be part of that definition. We just have to get out of our own way and not think so traditionally about higher ed like we always have in the past.
It's a double-edged sword to ask that question at the end of the episode, because I always want to end on that. But some of the answers are so good, I could ask that question first and the whole episode could be about that, but I won't do that to you today, Lillian. I'm going to end it right there. I am first going to thank my guest host today, Dr. Eric James Stevens. You were amazing today.
I'm not kidding, bro. I'm not kidding.
It was all you, Joe.
You by far your best appearance so far, even with the coughing, even with that stuff happening. But it was good. You were great, and I really appreciate you coming on. Incredible insights, and I like the connections that you made, especially as somebody who has been faculty and knows a lot about teaching and learning. Be able to make those connections and serve up those great questions to our guest today, ladies and gentlemen. Here she is again. I'm going to introduce her, outroduce her. Is that a word? I don't know. Her name, again, Dr. Lillian Schumacher. She's president of Tiffin University. Lillian, thank you so much for coming on the EdUp Experience today. I could speak for Eric when I tell you it was an absolute pleasure to host you.
It was a pleasure to be with both of you. Thank you so much for inviting me. You both take care.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd. The LeadSquared integrated CRM functionality will put your institution at the front end of marketing and enrollment strategy by delivering a streamlined admissions process. Capture student interest, segment your audience, create student engagement workflows, and even integrate with your student information system to create longitudinal key performance metrics you've always wanted. You can do all of this and lower your technology costs. Check out LeadSquared.com for more info.